Revealed. 13 incredible used trucks that transform your journey, lasting 10 years and costing half. In a small Midwestern town, the heartbeats of families pumped rhythmically to the sound of grinding metal in a nearby diner, where the aroma of spicy chili mixed with the sweetness of fresh pies. Jake, a 35-year-old mechanic, found solace in his garage, but the rising tide of bills was drowning him. Linda, his wife, kept their modest home running on a shoestring budget while filling Max and Ellie's days with laughter and love. They huddled together on the couch, the stack of overdue bills looming over them like storm clouds. One morning, the diner was unusually quiet. The clinking of silverware and the sizzling of bacon didn't mask the tension that hung in the air like smog. News broke the factory, the lifeblood of this town, was on the verge of shutting down. It was a punch to the gut. Jake's heart raced. How would they survive? As families gripped each other tighter, Linda squeezed Jake's hand, a silent beacon of strength. The community poured into the diner, sharing stories, support, and what little savings they could muster. Amidst the shadows of hopelessness, a flicker ignited in Jake's chest. He had a vision refurbishing used trucks to help families get back on the road. As he spent long evenings in the garage, he felt alive again. Each truck he transformed was not merely metal. It was a chance for a father to commute to work or a mother to buy groceries. The dusty garage turned into a sanctuary of growing dreams. But just as hope began to flourish, whispers of a wealthy developer infiltrated the diner. Plans for luxury homes threatened to drown Jake's aspirations in a flood of greed and profit. Conversations grew heated. Friends argued, debating the town's future. Jake's voice quivered as he defended his vision. Watching life once shared now divide was like a knife piercing through him. The people, the community, were they really willing to let it slip away for promise of wealth? Tension simmered until it bubbled over, leaving Jake to question if he could truly make a difference or if he was just being naive. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Linda stood by his side, her heart aching with worry, shielding their children from the brewing storm. With emotions frayed, reality set in. The impending meeting at the diner was pivotal, a crossroads that could forever alter their lives. Jake envisioned the bright eyes of Max and Ellie, their future hanging in the balance. Would they be proud of their dad standing firm for a dream? With voices rising, Jake felt the raw essence of his motivation. Would he take the leap and fight for their legacy, or succumb to the weight of despair? As the air grew thick with anticipation, he knew one thing: this was just the beginning. The future lay ahead, uncertain but ripe for change, echoing with the promise of hope that only a hometown could inspire. The evening light poured into the diner, casting long shadows across the faces of familiar neighbors who had gathered. The chatter had turned into a storm of frustration, desperation finding a voice as those affected by the factory's impending closure shared sleepless nights and dwindling savings. Jake sat at a small table, heart pounding, tracking Linda's anxious glances between him and the clustered crowd. He could sense the judgment, the skepticism that danced beneath the surface. Then, without warning, a young woman stood up, her hands trembling, yet fiery in resolve. "We can't let them take this away from us. This town is built on our sweat and dreams," she shouted. The room buzzed with murmurs and nods. Jake felt a rush of hope. He wasn't alone. This was not merely about him and his trucks, it was about community and heritage. As the discussion swelled, a man Jake recognized, old Mr. Caldwell, raised his voice. "But can we really sustain this place if we don't allow some growth?" His words landed like a lead ball, thickening the air with uncertainty. Children played at the edges of the diner, the innocent laughter juxtaposed against the heated conversations of adults. Jake jumped up, driven by a mix of rage and passion. "Growth doesn't always mean turning our back on who we are." His voice wavered, but was laced with intensity. "Refurbishing trucks means jobs. It's our paths forward, not just more homes no one can afford." The tide of the conversation shifted. He could feel the incredulous eyes of his neighbors waiting for him to convince not just them, but himself too that Linda's presence was a warm, steady flame amidst the storm. Her soft smile reassured him to press on. "What if we create something bigger?" he said, voice stronger now. "What if we built a community workshop? A place where all of us can come together, share skills, support each other, and keep our roots?" Silence blanketed the room, and Jake's heart raced. Would they laugh? Dismiss him? Perhaps even ridicule the idea? But as eyes searched each other, a middle-aged man muttered, "It could work as if a dam had broken." Voices began to blend into a harmonious hum of possibilities. They discussed ideas: shared labor, local crafts, repurposing old farm equipment. Jake could see glimmers of hope sparkling in Max and Ellie's eyes as they played. Maybe, just maybe, there was a way to weave their lives into something tangible, a family legacy bigger than the looming threat. But when the full weight of their dreams and hopes rested on Jake's shoulders, a lurking unease gripped him. What if the developer's offer was too tempting, too convincing? What if others turned against him, rendering his efforts meaningless? The conversation swirled around him, filling him with hope and yet doubt. "We need a plan, something concrete," he said, grounding himself. "Let's meet again tomorrow. Bring ideas, bring support. Each of us carries a piece of what this town means." The room buzzed with renewed energy, yet Jake could feel the storm inside him brewing. As the faces of his family filled his mind, so did the doubts: was he strong enough to hold them together? As they slowly left the diner, Jake caught Linda's eye. She squeezed his hand, a silent promise that they were in this together. Underneath the dim diner lights and softening evening, a spark of determination ignited deep within him. But within that flicker of hope lay the looming question. Could they really fight back against the tide of greed threatening to engulf their town? The night stretched ahead, filled with sleepless thoughts. Jake lay awake, staring at the ceiling. If he failed, what kind of world would his children inherit? With that thought gnawing at him, the uncertainty loomed larger than ever. Would tomorrow bring clarity or chaos? The faint glow of dawn peered through Jake's window the next morning, breaking the darkness that had tangled itself around his thoughts all night. He rolled out of bed, a slew of worries swirling in his mind. Today was crucial. His feet hit the hardwood floor, cool against his skin, grounding him momentarily in the reality of the day ahead. After a quick breakfast, he scanned the table, eyes landing on the crumpled flyer for the workshop meeting pinned to the fridge. Linda had written hope in bold letters across the top. It felt like a promise. In the quiet moments before the kids woke, he let that word soak in. Craving the strength it offered, he pulled on his work boots. Memories of his father's hands working tirelessly at the shop came rushing back. The laughter, the satisfaction of a job well done, it was all tied to those very walls. He thought of the people all over town, how they had relied on each other, forming a web of support that had always been there. Today, he needed to weave that web tighter. The diner, an anchor of the community, would soon hold an urgency that seemed to buzz in the air. When he arrived, he was greeted by familiar faces, friends and neighbors, all wearing expressions that mirrored his own, determination mixed with fear. The tables were set up in a circle, each chair filled with someone who held a piece of sharing responsibility. "Okay, everyone, let us get started," Jake called, standing at the center like a conductor before an orchestra. He glanced at Linda, whose proud smile steadied him. Clenching his fists, he planted his feet firmly. "This is our chance to shape the future. We need ideas. The workshop can be our heartbeat, but we need each of you to make it happen." Soft chatter began to rise, snippets of excitement filling the air. A woman named Sarah suggested organizing weekend classes where kids could learn basic mechanic skills. Another man, Dave, proposed collaborating with local farms, turning some of their unused machinery into community projects. The conversations ignited like kindling, morphing into a blazing fire of enthusiasm. Let us build a team to gather resources, materials, and most importantly, volunteers. We can turn this into something remarkable, Jake urged, his heart racing with every word he spoke. The energy in the diner pulsated, and for the first time, he felt as if they were inching closer to something profound. As plans began to take shape, the nervous chatter settled into a sense of purpose. Jake caught sight of old Mr. Caldwell scribbling notes, a slight smile breaking through his usual stoic demeanor. Even he was on board now. With every minute, Jake felt the heaviness inside him start to lift, replaced by a swell of pride. This was bigger than him. They were in this together. Yet, amid all the excitement, a familiar voice poked through his thoughts, a warning shadowed by uncertainty. What if they didn't have enough support? What if one opposing voice drowned out this newfound energy? As he glanced around the table, reality seeped in again. They could plan all they wanted, but nothing was guaranteed. Just then, the basement door opened with a creak, and Charlie walked in, an unmistakable scowl etched across his face. He had always been a skeptic, and the room fell silent. Jake's heart sank. Was this the moment the tide would turn against them? Why all are wasting your time? Charlie said, crossing his arms. This town isn't what it used to be. You think you can change that with some dream workshop? A collective breath was held as murmurs of protest began to bubble up. Fear mingled with anger, but Jake knew he had to act. Charlie, please, this is about more than just a workshop. It's about reviving who we are. It's about fighting back and preserving our future. As the words left his mouth, Jake met Charlie's glare head-on. The room felt charged with tension, and he could feel everyone's eyes darting between them, sensing the stakes were rising. Could they rally together, or would fear splinter their unity? As Jake felt the weight of those watching him, he recognized the desperate need for a breakthrough. This was just the beginning. But would they respond with the strength of their bonds or sink into doubt? The question loomed heavy in the air, and Jake's heart raced at what was about to unfold. Charlie, we aren't just talking about a dream. We're crafting a lifeline for this town. Jake's voice was steady but edged with the urgency of the moment. He could feel the energy in the room shift, a palpable tension crackling in the air like an approaching storm. Charlie uncrossed his arms and leaned forward, eyebrows knitted tight. And you really think people will show up? Life is busy, Jake. They've got jobs, bills. They don't have time to play at building a workshop. But they have time for each other. Jake shot back, his heart pounding. Look at us. We're all here. It might not be perfect, maybe it won't even work, but if we don't try, we're guaranteed to lose everything. A low murmur of agreement stirred throughout the diner, but Jake could see the flicker of doubt still hanging over some faces. The room was charged. Linda's hand rested gently on Jake's arm, a reassuring presence. We can do this, Charlie. We just need to believe in one another. Everyone has something to gain when our kids have a place to learn, to create, to grow. Jake caught a glimpse of the older folks, remembering their laughter, their stories, the traditions woven into the fabric of the town. He spoke from his heart. This isn't just about the workshop. It's about the kind of community we want to be. Resilient. Together. We can't leave it all to fate. We have to fight for our future. A somber silence filled the diner. Jake's breath felt shallow as he realized he was staring at a decision point. He locked eyes with Charlie, searching for any hint that the man might soften. But Charlie's frown remained, a fortress of resistance against all the ideas swirling in the room. Then, Sarah spoke up, her soft but keen voice cutting through the stillness. My son, Jake, needs a place to tinker, to build. Right now, he just has the sidewalk. Her words cast a ripple effect. One by one, people nodded, stories flowing out of memories about what the town used to be, the bustling shops, the friendly gatherings. Jake felt a spark of hope igniting among them. This was the connection they desperately needed. Let us share our stories. Let us put our hearts on the table. What do you all want for our community? Slowly, voices rose, each person adding their vision, layer upon layer. Dave shared how his daughter loved arts and crafts and could teach classes, while another neighbor recounted learning to fix cars with his father, wanting to pass it down. Laughter and agreement filled the diner, binding them together with a shared desire to restore something precious. Charlie stood off to the side, arms still crossed, but there was a shift in his stance, a subtle uncoupling of his doubt. You're all dreaming too big. But maybe dreaming isn't the worst thing, he added hesitantly. The moment lingered, filled with possibilities. Jake felt adrenaline surge, sensing the tide might be turning. Then let us take this energy and make something real. We can start small. Organize a cleanup. Have a barbecue. Something to gather our spirits. Before he could finish, a flurry of suggestions bounced around the room, the voices growing louder in excitement. There was a new feeling in the air, one of camaraderie. It felt like the town was awakening, stepping out of its slumber. Yet, as they discussed their plans, Jake felt a lingering uncertainty. Would this unity hold? Could they really pull together? Or was this just a fleeting high? As laughter crackled and ideas poured, Jake stole a glance at Charlie, who seemed lost in thought. Was he swayed, or just biding his time? That question sat heavily in Jake's mind. Outside, the sun broke through the clouds, illuminating the diner in golden light as sign, perhaps, that brighter days were ahead. But Jake couldn't shake the feeling that challenges were lurking just out of sight, ready to strike when they least expected it. With a renewed sense of purpose, Jake took a deep breath, ready to forge ahead. But would they be strong enough to face the storms brewing on the horizon? The answer loomed ahead, just beyond their grasp. The diner buzzed with excited chatter, the night air buzzing with a sense of newfound possibility. Jake felt like a conductor, orchestrating a symphony of voices as laughter and ideas soared above the clinking of silverware and the sizzling of the grill. "Let us do a block party," someone suggested, and the idea resonated like a melody, bringing more cheers. "How about a little fair? We could have games, food stalls, a bake-off." Jake nodded eagerly, mentally cataloging each proposal. Each shared vision felt like another stitch in the fabric of their community, pulling them closer together, thread by thread. He glanced over at Charlie again, hoping to see more of a spark in the man's eyes. And then it happened. Charlie shifted, his posture relaxing just a fraction, and to Jake, it felt monumental. "A fair could work," Charlie finally said, tentatively. "But we'll need a ton of prep. A lot of hands on deck." "Count me in," Linda declared, pumping her fist in the air. "I can organize the food stations. The best chili in town, I promise." The enthusiasm swirled around them like a breeze on a warm summer day, lifting spirits higher. Jake couldn't remember the last time he felt the town so alive, so connected. They dove deeper into planning, brainstorming themes and logistics. Hours slipped by unnoticed, and with each laugh shared, the doubts that once shadowed Jake started to lift. Maybe they were really onto something. But as the clock crept towards the late hour, his mind flickered back to the storm he sensed earlier. That whisper of uncertainty clawed at him again. "Jake, can we talk?" Charlie's voice cut through the joyful noise, and Jake swallowed hard. The atmosphere shifted slightly, and all eyes turned to them. Yeah, sure," Jake replied, trying to mask the fluttering in his stomach. They stepped outside, the night air fresh and cool against their skin. Jake braced himself, wondering what Charlie was going to say. The last thing he wanted was to lose momentum now that they had built so much excitement. Charlie crossed his arms again, his brows knit in thought. "I'll admit you got people riled up tonight, but what if it doesn't turn out how we want? What if no one shows up? Then we try again," Jake said, almost instinctively. "This is just the beginning. And if they make fun of us?" Charlie's voice was steadier now, but the shadow of worry lingered. Jake took a breath, understanding where this was coming from. "You've seen it, Charlie. We're stronger together. If we let fear hold us back, we'll always be stuck, watching from the sidelines." They stared each other down, and in that moment, Jake felt the weight of the past pushing against both of them. The scars of disappointment, of dreams unfulfilled. Remember what Sarah said? Kids need a place to let their imaginations run wild. It's more than just about us. For a heartbeat, silence hung heavy between them, the tension thick but shifting. Jake felt his heart race, unsure if he was getting through. Finally, Charlie exhaled slowly, easing his rigid posture. "Okay, I'll help. But we'll need a plan B just in case." There was a flicker of a smile, a crack in the fortress of his doubts. Jake's spirits lifted. That's the spirit. Together, we'll figure it out. And hey, maybe we can even throw a little plan B fair next year too. They shared a quiet laugh, one that felt like reconciliation. But as they walked back into the diner, that nagging worry hung in Jake's mind. Outside, the night sky twinkled with stars, bright yet distant. Jake couldn't help but feel a mix of hope and dread. They had taken a significant step, but was it strong enough to weather the storms lurking ahead? As laughter and voices erupted once more behind him, Jake hesitated at the door, looking up at the vast expanse above. The universe felt so wide, so unpredictable. Could they really unite the town, or was this merely a flicker in their fight for survival? With resolve mixed with uncertainty, he took a deep breath and stepped back inside, ready for whatever lay ahead, unaware that the challenges would test them in ways they never imagined. Would they find strength together, or would the weight of fear pull them apart when they needed to stand tall? The diner hummed with a sense of camaraderie, laughter spilling over as the townsfolk continued brainstorming for the upcoming fair. Jake felt lighter as he rejoined the group, buoyed by Charlie's shift toward optimism. It was as if a weight had been lifted, a small crack in the armor that had been holding Charlie back. Okay, folks, let us make a list of who's in for planning committees. Lucy called out, her energetic voice cutting through the noise like a beacon. Around the room, hands shot up. Jake smiled, jotting down names and ideas. It was happening, they were actually rallying around this vision. But between the laughter and conversations, Jake's mind couldn't fully shake the unease that had settled there. After all, just a few hopeful words wouldn't erase years of skepticism and doubt. The familiar tension began to creep back in as he caught Charlie's eye again. Charlie was staring thoughtfully, his brows knitting together like the engine of a car about to sputter. Jake decided it was time to steer this in a different direction. Let us break into smaller groups. Food, games, setup, we can tackle things quicker that way, Jake suggested. By the energy in the room, it was clear it was the right call. The fire in everyone's eyes was contagious. The participants moved into clusters. Jake slipped into the food committee circle, excited to hear Linda map out her chili competition plan. I was thinking, she began, enthusiasm sparkling, we could invite the best cooks from all over town. Make it a real challenge. As plans unfolded around him, Jake felt elated. It felt alive, like the diner itself was breathing with hope. But there remained that gnawing worry. Would they follow through? Can we do corn on the cob? Everyone loves that. A voice exclaimed from the kids' games group. Jake couldn't help but chuckle as he caught sight of Linda's competitive spirit sparking debate over which chili would reign supreme. Amidst the echoes of laughter and slotting together of roles, Jake found brief moments to glance at Charlie. His friend remained deep in conversation, but hadn't fully engaged. Look, Jake said, pulling Charlie aside when he could, I think we're onto something. You know we can make this happen. I know, Charlie replied, though his eyes wandered as if searching for cracks in the fabric of their plans. But what about the kids? What if they hate it? What if it flops? Then we learn, Jake said, feeling the energy of the moment settle over them like a warm blanket. We regroup, brainstorm, and try again. This is just the start. Charlie took a deep breath, his gaze softening. Yeah, I guess you're right. Making a magical place for kids to run wild is worth the risk. Their moment of understanding felt fragile, like trying to capture an echo. But it was also liberating. Jake felt his heart buoy. We'll make memories, Charlie, just like the ones that stuck with us as kids. As the diner buzzed louder around them, Jake felt that familiar push of life reminding him of all that was at stake. Suddenly, Linda rushed over, her excitement contagious. Hey, can we get more hands for decorations? I want this place to pop. It'll be like a carnival. One of the kids chimed in, their eyes wide with possibilities. All around them, ideas flew like confetti, vibrant and colorful. But Jake felt a knot tighten. The weight of what they were trying to build, this place of magic, festivity, and joy, felt heavier with every exuberant suggestion as they scattered back to their groups. A sudden chill swept through the diner, leaving a feeling of unease lingering in the air. Jake looked at Charlie, who seemed lost in thought again. Together, Jake said with more conviction than he felt. We can do this together. But what if together wasn't enough? What if beyond the laughter, the storms he sensed were gathering strength? With resolve wavering like a flickering candle, Jake sensed that the true test lay ahead. Would they succeed in bringing the town together, or would those fears deepen as the fair approached, leaving their fragile hopes at the mercy of every whispering doubt? The evening stretched on in the diner, each laugh echoing like a heartbeat against the walls. Jake returned to the food committee with a smile plastered on his face, even as shadows of doubt danced around him. The lively discussions had sparked something deep within him, a glimmer of hope. Yet, Charlie's troubled expression haunted him like a ghost. Jake, you there? Linda's voice jolted him back. She was waving her hands animatedly, holding a handful of colorful fabric swatches. We need to choose colors for the decorations. What do you think? I love these bright yellows and blues, Jake replied, trying to match her enthusiasm. They scream fun. They do, right? Kids will love it. She began pinning a few colors on a board. But I still think we should do something unique. How about some twinkling lights? A few lanterns hanging around? Jake nodded, his mind wandering back to Charlie. Yeah, that'll give it a magical feel. But even at that moment, joy slipped through Jake's fingers, the way sand does at the beach. Would lights and colors truly be enough to mask their fears? As they manipulated fabric and ideas, the laughter outside drew nearer. The town truly felt alive. A warmth spread through Jake's chest. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he noticed Charlie slip out, leaving the din behind. The smile on his face faltered. "Excuse me, I'll be right back," he mumbled, cutting through the wave of excitement surrounding the group. He regretted missing a potential golden moment, but something deep inside wormed at him. He hurried after Charlie, who was standing by an old oak tree, hands shoved deep into his pockets. "Charlie, wait up," Jake called out, anxiety pooling in his stomach. Charlie turned to him, his shoulders slumped. "I needed some air," he said, his voice flat. "Come on, don't disappear on me now." Jake stepped closer, searching for the right words. "We're in this together, remember?" Charlie stared at the ground, visibly struggling. What if it all goes wrong, Jake? What if no one shows up at the fair? Or worse, what if the kids don't even have fun? Or what if it all goes right? Jake stepped forward, his resolve pushing through the uncertainty. "We can't predict everything, but we're creating something new. Isn't that worth it?" The flicker of hope Jake had been nurturing did something strange to Charlie. His eyes, once clouded, brightened just a hair. "I guess it is. Just, it feels like there's so much riding on this." The tension in Jake's chest echoed his friend's words. He took a deep breath, trying to ease the weight of responsibility. "Maybe we can take it one step at a time. Nobody said we had to have all the answers tonight. We just need to be willing to try." Charlie's gaze softened, but the worry still clung to him like the summer humidity. "You really think we can pull this off?" "Yeah, I do," Jake said, warmth creeping back into his voice. "Together, we can bring everyone together, make something special." At that moment, another burst of laughter erupted from inside the diner. It beckoned them, pulling them back to the heart of the gathering. But before Jake could step inside, Charlie hesitated, catching his breath. "Hey, Jake." Charlie's voice held a new uncertainty. "What if I can't handle the pressure? What if I let you down?" Jake placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "You won't. We support each other, all of us. Don't forget how powerful this group is. That support is everything we need." Just then, a gust of wind rustled through the oak tree, sending leaves swirling around them like confetti. For a brief moment, everything felt perfect, but as they turned to head back inside, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that something deeper lingered out there, just beyond their laughter. What awaited them beyond those doors was still a mystery. And behind the happiness, beneath the excitement, dark clouds loomed over the fair, reminding him that not all stories end with joy. Would their dreams endure, or would the shadows cast by doubt and fear overshadow their hopes? Jake felt the weight of uncertainty settle back in, an unsettling reminder that the real test was just beginning. The air inside the diner was buzzing with the excitement of planning, but Jake could feel the cold bite of reality creeping back in. Charlie's hesitance seeped into him, like the chill of a winter evening. As they stepped back inside, the lively chatter wrapped around them, but his heart felt heavy with unaddressed fears. Linda had moved on to discussing food options when they returned, her eyes sparkling with ideas. "How about a lemonade stand? Sweet tea? We could make it a nice summer vibe," she said, her hands gesturing dramatically. "Sounds great, let us do it," Jake replied absent-mindedly, hoping to match her enthusiasm. But his mind was overlooking the laughter, drifting in waves towards Charlie, whose face now blended into a mask of stillness amidst the lively chatter. "Jake, are you okay?" Linda's voice cut through his fog once more. "Yeah, I'm fine," he managed, forcing a smile, yet the warmth faded quickly, leaving behind a grim chill. The discussions around him felt like echoes in a canyon, exciting, yet muted and distant as the meeting progressed. Jake's gaze kept darting to Charlie. He could see the worry deep in his friend's eyes, buried under layers of doubt. If Jake couldn't get Charlie to believe in what they were building, Could their efforts even spark joy for the kids? After what seemed an eternity, the meeting ended. The committee's chatter faded as everyone began to gather their things. Jake, Linda called out once again. Why don't you come help me with the signs for the fair? Yeah, sure. Just give me a minute, he said, his voice slightly strained. He needed to talk to Charlie one more time. In a quiet corner of the diner, he found his friend, arms crossed tightly over his chest. The weight of the world hung on Charlie's shoulders. Hey, you, Jake said softly. We need to finish this tonight. You up for it? Charlie looked up, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. I want to be, but nothing. Jake interrupted, urgency creeping into his tone. Look, I know you're scared. We all are. But we have to keep moving ahead. There's a lot we can still make happen. Let us focus on that. It just feels like, what if I can't deliver on this? The strain in Charlie's voice twisted Jake's heart. He leaned closer, feeling the gravity of the moment. Listen, nobody is expecting us to be perfect. Just show up and give what you can. We've got a village behind us, and I promise that's worth something. Can you trust me on this? Charlie held his gaze for a long moment, his doubts slowly ebbing away. You really think so? I know so, Jake affirmed, a sudden wave of confidence flooding through him. And I'll be right there with you. Together, just like we said. Taking a deep breath, Charlie cracked the faintest hint of a smile. All right, let us do this. I'll help. As they joined the rest of the group, Jake felt a renewed sense of determination. Maybe they could pull it off after all. The camaraderie around him began to feel tangible, almost like a lifeline. But then came the sounds of angry voices from outside, a sudden shift that made the room go silent. Eyes turned towards the door, and Jake's stomach churned. Something wasn't right that he glanced at Charlie, whose expression mirrored his unease. They both knew this could put a damper on everything they had worked so hard for. What now? Charlie whispered, anxiety creeping back in. Just then, the door swung open, and a familiar figure stepped in, face flushed with anger. You guys need to see this. It's not good. Jake exchanged a worried look with Charlie, the weight of what they were trying to build teetering precariously on what would come next. What had just invaded their hopeful space, and how would they handle it now? The diner felt like it was holding its breath. All chatter faded as the familiar figure stepped further inside. It was Mike, his usual carefree demeanor clouded with anxiety. Jake's heart raced. He had known Mike for years. He wouldn't come in here upset unless something serious was cooking. What happened? Jake asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Mike darted a glance over his shoulder, as if the very walls might be listening. It's a mess down by the park. There is some talk about shutting it down, for good. The weight of Mike's words hit like a punch to the gut. The local park was the heart of their community, a place where kids laughed, parents gathered, and memories were made. What? Why? Charlie's voice rose, the agitation palpable. They're talking about a construction project. You know, building luxury condos or something. Mike spat, anger igniting his features. His fists clenched. They don't care about us about the kids. They just want to cash in. Jake's mind raced. This was more than just bad news. This was their dream affair, a community gathering. If they lost the park, they'd lose everything. No, Jake declared, the word coming out stronger than he intended. We can't let this happen. We need to fight for it. Linda had been listening from a distance, eyebrows knitted in concern. What can we do? They're a big corporation. We're just a few people with a fair exactly. Jake interjected, stepping closer to her. But we're the community. If we rally everyone together, show them how much the park means to us, they might back down. Charlie's eyes sparked with a flicker of hope, but doubt lingered on his face. And how do we do that? It feels like we're up against something huge. Start small, Jake urged, his heart pounding in rhythm with his passion. Let us spread the word. Get people talking. We could host a meeting at the diner and share our story. They have to see how much this matters. Mike brightened at the idea, nodding along. Yeah, we can create a petition and gather signatures. Build a case. If enough of us come together, they won't be able to ignore us. The room buzzed with renewed energy, the fears slowly morphing into a tangible call to action. Jake felt determined, as if the energy in the space was awakening something deep within him. Charlie finally accepted the momentum, his arms uncrossing as the tension eased. All right then, let us do it. I'm in. They dove into planning, throwing ideas back and forth, and before long, The diner's familiar hum returned, infused with purpose this time. But as the meeting continued, Jake noticed a shadow flicker across Linda's face. "What's wrong?" he asked gently. I worry we're up against a wall. Everyone says they're too powerful. What if we end up wasting our time?" Jake felt a chill run through him. He understood Linda's panic. It echoed inside him too. But amidst the uncertainty, he took a deep breath and faced her. "What if we don't try? Is that what we want? To sit back and lose something that means everything?" Linda looked down, biting her lip. He could see the internal battle waging in her eyes. "Okay," she said finally, her voice steadier. "Let us fight." The group embraced the challenge, and with each passing moment, Jake felt the anticipation build. They were becoming more than just a committee. They were a force, a voice ready to rise up for what mattered. But just as excitement filled his chest, an unsettling thought crept in. Would they find enough support? Would they be able to sway the town and support their cause against such a behemoth? The door swung open again, this time revealing a figure Jake hadn't seen in years. A familiar face, Ted, the town's former mayor, stood there, shock flashing across his features. What was he doing here? Jake couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't going to end well. "Jake, Linda," Mike. Ted hesitated, the weight of his next words hanging in the air. "You need to listen to me. Things are about to get worse, much worse." Jake's heart sank. What new threat lurked beyond the diner's walls? And would they be ready for it? The sense of urgency electrified the diner as Ted stepped further inside. Jake felt the energy shift, pulling at the threads of hope they had woven together just moments before. "What do you mean, Ted?" Jake asked, his voice edged with tension. Ted's brow was furrowed, a storm of concern brewing in his eyes. "I've heard whispers. The developers have powerful connections. They're not just going to try to run over the park. They want to wipe out our entire town's identity." The air thickened, tension gnawing at laughter and excitement that had just filled the room. Linda's hand shot to Jake's arm as she voiced their shared fear. "What do we do then? How can we fight against something so big?" Jake's heart raced in synchrony with the dread in the atmosphere. "We've built something strong here. If they're trying to crush us, we have to prove we're worth more than they think. We can't back down." Charlie nodded slowly, his voice firming. "But we need to be smart about it. Mobilizing everyone won't just be enough. We have to get organized." The glimmer of ideas began to start flickering again. "A town meeting," Mike suggested, leaning forward with conviction. "Get everything out in the open. We rally the community, lay out the stakes, and make a real stand." The room buzzed with ideas again, plans bubbling up like the warm coffee in their mugs. Jake felt warmth spread through him again, fighting against the cooling gloom. "We need flyers," he said. "We'll need to get the word out so people don't just show up half-heartedly." Linda's excitement returned, and she added, "And we can set up a group on social media. We can reach every corner of the town. Count me in for organizing everything. We can also set up a petition," a voice chimed from the back of the diner. Jake saw smiles of determination bloom in faces that had hung heavy before, but doubts still whispered through the corners of his mind. "We're going to need to prepare for the worst, too," he said seriously. "Let us assume pushback from the developers. We need to be ready for anything they might throw at us." The group continued to amplify their plans, fueled by mounting inspiration. "Charlie, perhaps for the first time, let a smile break through. Let us be a fortress," he remarked. "I've got your back. Let us show them we're not going down without a fight." As they organized late into the night, Jake could sense their shared purpose solidifying like steel. They were the heartbeat of a community, ready to rise for each other, for their children, and for the future they all envisioned. And as they prepared to face the upcoming storm, he felt a swelling pride in what they were building within this very diner. The next day brought the first rays of sunlight over rows of green trees lining the park, an old playground grappling against the changing landscape. As orchestrated as the day before had felt, today felt electric, alive with possibilities. Jake stood in front of his neighbors alongside Linda, watching the ripple of familiar faces gather. Even Ted had joined them, standing tall, ready to lend his voice again, and the spark of unity ignited anew among those gathered. "I remember my own childhood here," he said, his voice strong. "We cannot lose our heritage. This community is built on dreams and grit, and that stays alive when we fight for it." Cheers erupted, carrying a warmth through Jake's heart. as murmurs of encouragement spread like wildfire. But the shadow of doubt loomed again as the developers' representatives positioned themselves with their legal briefs and tailored suits, confident as they approached. Jake clenched his fists. Their presence felt suffocating, intent on swaying the crowd against him. "Don't let fear stand in the way," he bellowed, his voice resonating like a drumbeat. "We may be small, but together, we're strong." The crowd echoed his determination, voices rising, drowning out the developer's attempts to interject. It felt as if the very ground beneath them shook in resistance to the threat before them. As the protests continued, emotions swelled. Kids played on the swings, laughter ringing in the air, a memory of what they were fighting to preserve. Jake's resolve intensified with every high-pitched giggle, every proud glance exchanged amongst friends and family. Hours later, as dusk settled, something remarkable began to happen. Beyond the initial confrontation, conversations sprung up, building bridges instead of walls, understanding replacing hostility. Each sentiment of love for their homes, their families, and their identities bound them tighter like a community quilt stitched with dreams. Let South fill this park with laughter, joy, and memories that can't be erased. Every one of you counts. Jake's voice echoed loud, strong amidst the voices united. And just as darkness threatened to fall, light illuminated by hopes filled the air. After long nights and hard battles, they stood as a community transformed. Days rolled on, but the fair had blossomed into something transcendent, a true testament to family, resilience, and the realization that love always conquers fear. As laughter enveloped them under twinkling lights, Jake spotted faces glowing with joy, each individual cherishing the unwavering spirit that had gathered them here. In that moment, Jake found deep relief and overwhelming gratitude. They had fought, they had stood tall together, and somehow, against what seemed insurmountable, they emerged victorious. As he hugged Linda tightly, their children dancing joyously to the music, it hit him, sometimes real transformation comes from facing the storm with unyielding hope and community love. And in the heart of that once fragile town, the legacy they forged together would thrive, a beacon for future generations to carry forth. This was more than a revival. It was a celebration of identity, of dreams reclaimed. Jake looked around, knowing this was just the beginning, a spark igniting a new chapter, where futures would be born under the stars, pulling bright against the canvas of the night. Now, it's your turn. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending below. Let us know how this story inspired you. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to support us, so don't wait not even one more second to share. True fans understand.